for talking about our own ways that we give off cues. We get to learn what they are. And for some people that might be more nervous generally when it comes to doing presentations or being in the sales and kind of afraid of not being charismatic enough to sell, are there maybe one or two or a couple cues we could share that could be a very easy fix for someone listening to right now?
Yes. Well, the first thing I would have you do, whether or not you're a nervous presenter or not, but especially if you're a nervous presenter, is before you read the book, I would try to get your baseline. So this is especially important for people who are pitching or presenting a lot or have a sales pitch. Before you even learn any more cues, as soon as this video is over or this podcast is over, I want you to either record your own pitch or grab a Zoom recording or an old recording of your pitch. The reason for this is because we don't see ourselves, right? We're speaking out to the world. It's hard to see, wow, I do that nose crinkle when I'm talking about price, right? Like I crinkle my nose up when I talk about price. That's actually a disgust cue. And people who hate talking about money will show their disgust as they're talking about money. So we can't see that, right? We don't even know that we're doing it. So first, I would deliver your pitch or a version of your pitch on video, direct to camera, pretend there are real people in the room, pretend there are stakes, so you have your baseline. That is going to make you far more impactful when you're reading the book. And I don't actually give that recommendation to everyone, but for people who are listening to this show, I think that's critical because then you can self-diagnose. That's what's giving away my nervousness. Oh wow, look what I do when I get to that portion of the presentation. Why do I look different in my first impression versus my last impression, right? So that's really, so first is I want you to get a baseline, get that video, put the whole pitch on video. If you can, bonus points, pretend that someone asked you your least favorite question. A price objection, a criticism, asking about your competitors, and answer that question right to camera, right? That gets us a little bit more nervous. That's the first thing. The second thing is I actually want you to begin to diagnose, right? And so if I had to pick one or two cues that just already are going to help you, here's one really easy one, which is research is quite clear across cultures and genders and races. We do not like people who touch their face. I know. I know. And this is really hard for me. And I have to work on it because I'm a face toucher. I am a face toucher. And what they found very, very clearly in many studies is that when speakers on video, in person, touch their face, and that could be biting nails, that could be, fixing makeup, that could be rubbing eyes, that could be fixing glasses, it's a signal to others subconsciously and consciously that they're nervous. And that is because touching the face are perilously close to lying cues. Liars touch their nose more often, literally touch their nose more often. A researcher, Alan Hirsch, I believe, found that Bill Clinton touched his nose 26 times when he was lying during the Monica Lewinsky trial and only 2 times on the honest questions. So liars touch their nose. They touch their nose like this. They scratch their nose. They touch their nose. They rub their nose. So we know that subconsciously. People who are very anxious mouth block. So they cover their mouth. Like you'll notice if you say to a kid, "Did you take that cookie?" They'll no. Like they cover their mouth because they're trying to withhold information. And there's also eye blocking where we cover our eyes. So all of those cues are really close. So even if you're face touching, not eye, nose, mouth, it's close. It makes it so. Try to remove those as much as possible. Right? Try to remove any and all face touching if you can. And that sounds crazy, but that's a really easy one. I struggle with it still, so I really have to work on it. The only exception to it might be, and this was a favorite cue of Hillary Clinton, although she didn't win any elections, so maybe this is something she has to work on, is a contemplation cue. A contemplation cue is when someone rests their face on their chin on their hand. That might be the only exception to the face touch rule, is you'll notice that very contemplative people, what is it, the thinker, right? Like that, right? The thinker sculpture. So, resting your chin on your hand, that's the only exception to that one. So that's one really easy one that I'll give.
I love it. And thank God you gave me the exception because I love putting my hand on the chin and being the thinker. And so at least I'm getting a pass for that one. And
you're getting a pass because that's contemplative, right? You're really thinking. Really,
100%.
Yeah.